Let's begin, shall we? Okay. Good morning, everyone. And today I'm going to do another talk on a musician who is very dear to me. You may remember back in December I talked about Damon Albarn and his spiritual and religious influences. Here I'm going to discuss the lyrical content of the Icelandic singer Björk's music and how that relates to her philosophy of curiosity in a way. And it's very rare for me to say that simply being inquisitive about nature and humanity and love, which are the main three aspects that she discusses in her lyricism, can be really a philosophy, but the way that she really approaches it is so unique and so childlike and so imaginative in its structure that it really stands out. So first of all, I have a question for everyone. Is there a musician you enjoy whose work transcends just a brief explanation when you're trying to introduce them to a friend or someone? And for me, Björk easily fits that description. And like I said, not only is she deeply rooted in her spirituality and childlike curiosity, as suggested by her song's lyrics, she also exhibits this in a way that's very similar to our own UU fourth principle, which, just as a refresher, is to have a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Now, I'm going to begin with a brief biography for those who are not familiar with Björk. So Björk was born on November 21st, 1965 in Reykjavik, Iceland, to an activist mother and a union leader father. And later on, I will explain how that has influenced some of her beliefs. But interestingly, she first released music at age 11 in 1977 for a solo album, but she doesn't really consider this one of her official works. What's interesting is in the 80s, she appeared in several different bands that were pretty small, but one that received international attention was this Icelandic alt-rock group called the Sugar Cubes, which unfortunately broke up not long after their debut. They only released 3 studio albums, but when you have the chance, I would highly recommend listening to them. This talk is mostly going to focus on our solo work, but if you ever have the chance to listen to Sugar Cubes, they're really great. They give off like some Talking Heads and Cure vibes, but they're Icelandic, so the accent really makes it cool. Some more interesting facts about Björk. She has a son, Sindri, and a daughter, Isadora. She's been in several different relationships throughout her life, many of which have influenced her music, which I will once again get into later. And interestingly enough, you may know her best since she won an Oscar in 2001 for Best Original Song, I've Seen It All, which she wrote for the soundtrack of a Lars von Trier film, Dancer in the Dark, which she starred in. And one aspect about her I find really interesting is her fashion sense. For each of her albums, she has a vastly different fashion sense. And I believe she was promoting her 4th album around the time of that year's Oscar show. So she wore her infamous swan dress, which is probably her most iconic piece of clothing. I'm not normally a fashion person, but Björk's fashion just blows me away. So with that out of the way, let's get to the songs of hers that I think are most significant to her philosophy of curiosity, as I like to put it. And I'm going to go through these in chronological order. So we'll start off with her debut solo album, which was simply referred to as Debut, released in 1993. Now, the first opening track from this album, Human Behavior, can almost be seen as an antithesis to being curious about, well, anything really, especially a search for truth and meaning. Because it's almost warning against understanding humanity. The main lyrics are, if you ever get close to a human and human behavior, be ready to get confused. And one part of the chorus that stuck out to me is, and there is no map, and a compass won't help at all. And I really found that interesting because not only is it really an antithesis to her overall um, philosophy, but if you look at it from a certain perspective, it sort of sidelines humanity, and it could be considered social commentary, especially because she, as we will see later on, uh, has a deeply rooted spiritual connection to nature. So maybe in this way, she's subtly advocating and showing her early signs of being a more spiritual and naturalistic person. On the other hand, one track, Venus as a Boy, really explores her curiosity for a pure sense of human sexuality, which I think is a very interesting aspect of her music. I mean, if you know about the goddess Venus, I mean, it's very odd that she would associate that with someone of the opposite gender. But here, I think she's trying to have the roles be transcended to the point that anyone can be really sensual, really. So there's the line, his fingers, they focus on her touches. He's Venus as a boy. He believes in a beauty. He's Venus as a boy. So I really found these lines fascinating, especially when we consider Western perceptions of sexuality as compared to European perceptions of sexuality. So that's an aspect I really like. I like how curious she is about human sensuality and how she's willing to explore that in a more appropriate way compared to most music. And then this album, sonically, it also goes to exhibit how she mixes instrumentally, how she explores different styles, because her music has been described as avant-garde, and you will see why when I show you some examples. And part of the reason of that is because she doesn't usually have a set genre. She likes to explore and mix different instruments sometimes. And what's really interesting about this one song called There's More to Life Than This is that she recorded it live at a bar. And as she's progressing into the song, you can hear her walking out of the bar. And there's the line, "We can nick a boat and sneak off to this island. I could bring my little ghetto blaster," which is a 90s term for a jukebox or beatboxer. There's more to life than this, but we'd have to rush back to the town's best baker to get the first bread of the morning. And I really like this one in particular. I think it stands out for this album, but also her mindset in general, because she doesn't just want to party. She wants to explore life really to the fullest. And I think sonically having her leave the bar and you being able to hear that and that resonating with the lyrics really helps bring forth that message. Now we'll get to her second album, Post, which is easily the most popular. And here we can see more of her social commentary against humanity in a sort of cruel or confusing way. And here's the opening track, Army of Me, and where she's sort of intimidating like the role of like a radical capitalist viewpoint. And it's like, you're all right, there's nothing wrong. Self-sufficiency, please, and get to work. And if you complain once more, you'll meet an army of me. So I like how her first couple albums, they start out by introducing this antithesis to curiosity, and then segueing later on into a more naturalistic view. And that's how she explores her own truth and meaning by getting more in tune to nature and away from the materialistic world of humanity. And then there's the song I named this talk after, Hyper Ballad. And I feel like it most represents her philosophy because it explores like different types of curiosities. And it, I think, really explores the idea that thoughts are simply neutral. Whether they're positive or negative is up to you. So this song is about how she feels safe with her partner at the time. and how she has to remind herself of that. So there's the concept of her being on a cliff, and there's the line, "It's early morning, no one's awake. I'm back at my cliff, still throwing things off. I listen to the sounds they make on their way down. I follow with my eyes till they crash. Imagine what my body would sound like, slamming against those rocks. And when it lands, will my eyes be closed or open?" And then the main line, "I go through all this before you wake up, so I can feel happier to be safe up here with you." So even though she's considering very morbid curiosities, she's still addressing them as just neutral thoughts, and her ultimate happiness is derived from being safe with her partner. And no matter what thoughts she has, she's still going to feel secure. And then I'll get to the next track, Modern Things, which kind of continues the ideas presented in Army of Me, but at the same time, they're more inquisitive. And they're a bit humorous, I'd say. So there's the opening lines, "All the modern things like cars and such have always existed. They've just been waiting in a mountain for the right moment, listening to the irritating noises of dinosaurs and people dabbling outside." And then what I find really interesting is she sings this part in Icelandic, not in English. "No one pays much attention to us. The sun sets. Nobody knows how to pull out the best of me." So I feel like she's representing nature in a way that's really interesting. And she's also sort of embracing technology as a source of good for humanity. And I really like that. The song's very sarcastic. It's very upbeat too. And so it's nice to have a bit of humor from her. That's a good way to find her truth and meaning as well. She does that through humor. And then going back to her ideas of exploring love, there's the song "I Miss You." And I like the line, I miss you, but I haven't met you yet. So special, but it hasn't happened yet. You are gorgeous, but I haven't met you yet. I remember, but it hasn't happened yet. And if you believe in dreams, or what is more important, that a dream can come true, I will meet you. So here she's playing with the idea of meeting a lover before it even happens. And that's something I find really fascinating, because she is so transient in the idea of love, more so than even interacting with a lover. So then we'll get to 1997's Homogenic, which, funny enough, is my favorite album of hers, and I even have it on vinyl, as you can see right here. Anyway, this one is a more somber album, as it associates with her breakup. But one track I wanted to focus on was Alarm Call, and it has the line, "I want to go on a mountaintop with a radio and good batteries and play a joyous tune and free the human race from suffering." And there's the line, "It doesn't scare me at all." Just wanted to let you know there will be a little bit of my language going from here on out. And then there's the line, "I'm no fucking Buddhist, but this is enlightenment. The less room you give me, the more space I've got. It doesn't scare me at all." Again, being the main chorus. This is an alarm call, so wake up now. Today has never happened, and it doesn't frighten me. So I really like her optimism in this track, and her determination, really. And if you look at the concept of the album, it's almost like she's stripping herself away from the somberness to really want to help the world. And then there's the final track of the album, which is even more optimistic. All is full of love. And my favorite line from this song is, "Twist your head around. It's all around you. All is full of love all around you." So even in dark times, she is able to explore and be curious about love in all its many forms. So then we'll get to 2001's Vespertine, which further explores her own sexuality. But first, we'll get to the opening track, Hidden Place, with the lines, "But careful, careful, there lies my passion hidden. There lies my love. I'll hide it under a blanket, lull it to sleep. I'll keep it in a hidden place." So I like how this song really represents how, as curious as she still has some insecurities that she wants to keep attention to and explore in whatever her hidden place may be as a metaphor. And then there's the track Pagan Poetry, which really deeply explores her sexuality with some very fragrant imagery. So there's the line, on the surface simplicity, swirling black lilies, totally right. So that's a metaphor for sexuality. But the darkest pit in me, and it's pagan poetry, once again, swirling black lilies, totally right. So here she's kind of confronting her fears about continuing to pursue a relationship, but she's also a bit more determined and a bit more in tune with her own sensuality, especially since she is more famous and more of an internationally recognized artist by this time. This may be considered controversial for some of her audience, but she's still willing to explore that aspect of herself. As for the first 4 albums, they were pretty consistent sonically, even though they were experimental. They mixed orchestral pieces with electronic drum beats and electronic pieces as well, which I think really represented her. But then the sonic pieces really start to shift and go in all sorts of different directions for her next couple albums. We have Medulla in 2004, which is completely a cappella. There are people beatboxing, people making up all sorts of strange noises in place of instruments. And I think that is just a fine example of how the sonic and mixing aspects of her albums accompany her own curiosity. And I think one track that really represents this is Desired Constellation. With a palm full of stars, I throw them like dice repeatedly on the table, repeatedly. I shake them like dice and throw them on the table repeatedly until the desired constellation appears. And then we'll get to Volta from 2007. Now this album is more direct and upfront. There's some very heavy bass guitar and some very heavy brash mixing because it's more of an advocacy album. It's more of an album that not really advocates for you to stand up for yourself, but to stand against the more enforcing aspects of society. So we have Declare Independence, the final track of the album. And I really like the line, raise your flag higher, higher, which repeats 3 times. Damn colonists, ignore their patronizing, tear off their blindfolds, open their eyes. So I like how this line implies that she's willing to help those who are maybe bigoted or misinformed about things like social justice, for instance, to see their viewpoint and to help them understand. Now we'll go to 2011's Biophilia, which is really interesting because it included an educational app that you can download along with the album. And it really explores nature to its fullest, more than ever before previously in a Björk album. And there's the track Crystalline, which I feel really represents this. So it goes, underneath our feet, crystals grow like plants. Listen how they grow. I'm blinded by the lights. Listen how they grow in the core of the earth. Listen how they glow. We mimic the openness of the ones we love, dovetail our generosity, equalize the flow with our hearts. We chisel courts to reach love. So here she's exploring love in a very pure way, but she's also comparing it to crystals and geology and nature. And so here it's shown that she's much more in tune with nature as opposed to the materialistic world of humanity. And what's funny is many Björk fans, and I can definitely attest to this, have described her as almost being an alien because she is so distinct in her attraction to the natural world. It's almost contrasting heavily with humanity, which is really ironic and really sad when you think about it. But I feel like it's good that we have artists like her to do that. Then we have 2014's Vespertine, which is a very somber album because it's not a breakup album, it's a divorce album, where she discusses her divorce with her last partner. And there's the track Black Lake, where she says, you fear my limitless emotions. I am bored of your apocalyptic obsessions. Did I love you too much? Devotion bent me broken. So I rebelled, destroyed the icon. And here, she is starting to analyze the consequences of her curiosity, especially in love and sexuality, because by this time she's had up to 6 partners, and I really don't want to divulge in her personal life, but this is a very tender and personal album to her. And she's even admitted that she doesn't necessarily like this track, but even in saying that, I think it's good that she was curious about her own emotions and bringing them out in such a raw way. And it's also interesting to note, this is her first collaboration with the musician Arca, who is known for her very unique mixing and layering of various instruments, which really helps accompany these heavy ideas. So now we have our latest album, Utopia, which was released in 2017. And I really like this one because, one, it features heavy woodwind ensemble, which really helps represent the concept of the album, which is, as represented in the album, being in tune in nature and being hopeful for technology's positive use in the future can really create a utopia. But however, there is an antithesis. However, this one appears towards the middle of the album. It's called Tabula Rasa, which is the Latin term for clean slate. And here, it's kind of a continuation of Vespertine's themes, but it's more optimistic, keeping in line with Utopia's themes. And it's directed towards her children. And so it goes, once again, strong language. My deepest wish is that you're immersed in grace and dignity, but you will have to deal with shit soon enough. I hope to give you the least amount of luggage, got the right to make your own fresh mistakes, and not repeat others' failures. Clean slate. Tabula rasa for my children. Let's clean up. Break the chain of the fuck-ups of the fathers. It is time for us women to rise and not just take it lying down. It is time. The world is listening. So there she gets to show off more of her feminist ideals, which had started to appear more by 2017. And I really like her advocation in this one as well. But if we're talking about a more curious track, there's the final track on the album, Future Forever. Watch me form new nests, it goes. Weave a matriarchal dome, once again with the increased feminism. Build a musical scaffolding between sleep and awake, day and night, between night and day. And I feel like that really caps off Utopia well, because it's suggesting the idea of unconscious and conscious connection to music, and how she really wants to represent herself. And I feel like this track ultimately really represents Björk up to this point. I'm not sure when or if she's going to release new music, but if this were her final track, I feel like it would really sum her up well. So now we've gone through the most significant, at least in my opinion, tracks to her ideals from her 9 albums, hopefully so far. I'll go to some relevant quotes to her own spirituality. So I've collected these from multiple interviews, and she said, I do not believe in religion, but if I had to choose one, it would be Buddhism, which I find really funny considering Alarm Call. And she's also said, if I get into trouble, there's no God or Allah to sort me out. I have to do it myself. So I feel like that really represents our own 4th principle of a free search for truth and meaning. And then there's the quote, if I was sure that I was an atheist, but as I matured, I realized nature is my religion, which I've said previously is really shown throughout many of her tracks. Now I would like to show a clip from an interview in the 90s where she discusses the roles of women and how she views these as unfair, because I feel like her social justice views have really developed, and you can really see that in her lyricism, especially with Volta and Utopia. So with that out of the way, I'm going to show you a clip. All right, let me just set up the audio here for a second.
Men didn't be.
Let me pause this first. I need to make sure that the audio is connected here. All right. All right. So hold on, I've got share screen on here. Let me make sure all the settings are right. All right, it's on. Just making sure. Sorry for the wait. And here's the video. So I feel like this one really represents her social justice views.
Didn't before have to worry about this. They can be silly, fat, funny, intellectual, hardcore, you know, sensual, all those different things, philosophical. But with women, they always have to be feminine, feminine, feminine. And what I like most is not everybody say this is the age of women or whatever. I think this is bullshit, you know. I just like to see women who can be characters and can be themselves. And number 1, 2, and 3, they are what they are. And number 10, they happen to be women in the same way as you happen to be Spanish and I happen to be Icelandic, you know.
All right. And I'd also like to show you one of her music videos, because those are known for being very abstract and supporting how avant-garde her music has been described as. So this is a video for Tabula Rasa, at least a short clip from it.
We are all stolen from hiding his affairs. Let's put it all on the table. Let it all out. It is time. He mustn't steal our light. Tabula rasa for my children. Not repeating the fuck-ups of the fathers. My deepest wish is that you're immersed in grace and dignity.
So that's just an example of how abstract her music videos can get. But they still manage to be very stunning and elegant at times. And I have one more video to show if we have time. It looks like we do have just a few minutes. And this is a live recording of Hyper Ballad from 1996, it looks like. With that out of the way, this is how we will cap off my talk.
To kick the show off, a fantastic artist who was on, I think, maybe our second series, and she has got a new album out called Post. She's going to be doing a hyper ballad. Ladies and gentlemen, Björk.
We live on a mountain, right at the top. This beautiful view from the top of Cemented. Every morning I walk towards the edge and throw little things up. away. I'm back at my clear, still throwing things out. Listen to the sounds they make on their way down. I follow with my eyes till they crash. I wonder what my body would sound like. Slamming against those rocks. And when it lands, will my eyes be closed or open? I go through all this before you wave back, so I can feel happier to be inside the town with you. I go through all this before you wave back, so I can feel happier to be inside the town with you. I go through all this before you wave back, so I can feel happier to be inside the town with you. Say nothing 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 with you.
All right. One more thing I wanted to say is that Björk is definitely not the artist I typically listen to. Usually I listen to classic rock or metal. So it's always a surprise to find someone like her who stands out so much from what I usually listen to. And she's really helped broaden my horizons when it comes to what genres I listen to. So overall, Björk, you should give her a shot. All those songs, highly recommend them. Almost 10 out of 10. It's been great. Thank you once again, and I'll see you soon.